Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to see the first prose of our syllabus, A Letter to God. A Mexican story writer, Gregorio Lopez y Fuentes, narrates an event in the life of an ordinary farmer named Lencho. It describes the infinite faith of a man to God far away from the world of reasons. There has been a great dilemma related to faith and reason for a long time. So here this is a story which is based on complete faith in God. The faith of Lencho towards God. The faith of an ordinary farmer towards a person whom he believes that he is the cause for everything. Let us see. Now I would like to take your attention to a mountain valley. You might have seen the sight of a valley. Maybe through films, maybe through TVs, maybe when you went for your picnics. But still, you may be having an idea of a valley. There are small hills. Some plain areas are there, low-lying areas are there. Some houses here and there, isolated ones. And you see, in one of those isolated houses lives Lencho. Now he is sitting at the crest of a low hill. And from that place he is able to watch his surrounding. He could see the rivers. He could see the field of ripe corns dotted with flowers. He could see the sky. Yes, sky he was watching at. Because at this time of the crops, he knew that it required a little rain. And if it rained a little, that would promise him a good harvest. And he was watching the sky and found that it was going to rain that day. You know, the farmers are very good at predicting. So he made a prediction by watching the surrounding, by learning the surrounding. He was a good observer, you know. He looks at the northeast direction and tells his wife, "Dear, you see, the clouds are getting collected over there at the northeast direction. That means we are going to have some rains today." And she says, with a positive outlook, with confidence in God, "If God willing, let it happen." They were all having their dinner now. During the dinner, it began to rain. Slowly, it became heavy. They were all happy to see this rain, to experience this rain. They got out from their house just got out into the rain and experienced the cool of the rain physically and mentally. He counted the raindrops. The big drops seemed to be 10 cent pieces for him. The smaller drops were 5 cent pieces for him. You see the calculations of an ordinary farmer. You see, we need things in our life. We require different things in our life. But what happens when they are more than sufficient? When they are more than needed, they have the tendency to turn into something evil. That is what happened in Lencho's life too. The rain was good and needed one, but it grew heavier and heavier. Now, along with the strong winds, large hailstones began to fall. Beginning, there was no much of trouble. He loved it. But gradually, he becomes tensed. He could see that the hailstones are going to destroy his corns. And finally it happened. The whole field turned to be as white as snow, because the hailstones covered with the snow. The crops were covered with the snow. They were completely destroyed. You see, the great fortune that we have been going to experience in our future is just getting vanished at a moment. We feel completely destroyed and frustrated. Lencho also became so sad. He says that an attack of insects would have been much better than this attack of this hailstones. The attack of the insects could have left something for him. But now he has nothing left with. The night was a sorrowful one for everybody in that house. Everyone was thoughtful. They all had one hope. God, who has created them, would never allow them to die of hunger. That hope led them. Lencho expected help from God, and he expected physical help from God. Because God sees everything. He believed that. He used to work like an ox. He used to work very hard. Though he was a farmer at that time, he knew how to write. So now he is taking a step to write something, to write a complaint, to write a letter to God. He wrote a letter. He asked God, he tells God, if God doesn't help him, his family, they would go hungry that year. He needed 100 pesos in order to sow his field again and to live until the crops came up again. Pesos is Mexican money. He is a Mexican writer, and that is why he uses the term pesos for the money. He covered the envelope. He put the letter into the envelope, stuck it, and wrote on the envelope, to God. Usually when we write a letter, we write in the formal letter, we have learned different steps of writing a letter. We need from, date, to, subject, and all such formats we are very familiar with. So address is very much required for a letter, and therefore he wrote just a simple one word, that is to God. He reached the post office, pasted a stamp on it, and dropped it in the mailbox. We know that the post office employees, at the head there is a postmaster, and his subjects are there, his co-workers, postmen. It is the duty of the postman to pick the letters and also to deliver the letters. So here, now, as usual, every day it happens, he takes up this letter, this Lencho's letter from this post box. The address itself seemed very funny for this postman. No one writes a letter to God, right? So here it seemed to be something strange for. They were all sounding it as something very humorous. But still, now they began to think, if someone has written this letter to God, then it must be out of complete faith towards God. The postmaster opened this letter and then found what was written there inside it. Now, he becomes so serious about. He just wants to help this troubled situation of Lencho. He now discusses the matter with his colleagues, and decides to collect some amount. He himself put some amount from his own salary. He also collected some amount, little amounts from his own workers. And finally, it mounted up to be something 70 pesos. Lencho had asked for 100 pesos. They could collect only 70 pesos. Postmaster was so happy, satisfied with this amount that they could collect it and give it to a poor person. So in an envelope they covered this money. Addressed to Lencho, it was posted. And the next day, Lencho came and took this letter, in which he found 70 pesos. He must be very happy to get this money, right? No. He was not happy. He was all the more tensed. You know why? Here is the innocent nature of this farmer that can be seen in this story. You see, he had asked God 100 pesos, not 70 pesos. So he is a bit angry with God. He says to God, I had asked for 70 pesos, but you have given, it's only 70 pesos. You might have sent the whole money, but the people in this post office, they are crooks. Sometimes they might have done some foul play with that money. That is what Lencho believed. He had a trust in God, but he did not have any trust in that people there in the post office. One of the reality that we faces in our daily situations. Very often we try to fail the reality of life. We never want to think something beyond the normal way of thinking. We find people around us malicious. Sometimes this malicious thought might have occurred in Lencho's heart. Maybe due to strong faith in God. A kind of a blind faith in God. And he writes another letter to God. In that letter he says, you send the remaining money. And he says that don't send it through the mail because the post office employees are not that sincere. They are a bunch of crooks. Below that he writes Lencho. Very beautifully the writer has explained the story of this poor farmer with lot of trust in God. The normal troubles and questions that we face in our life. I hope, dear students, you have understood this lesson. Keep reading this lesson for many times, again and again, because literature is such a thing that you get new ideas at each reading. Let us wind up for time being. Go through the notes, learn them well, make it. Any doubts, please feel free to ask me at any time. Thank you.